Something about Red Dead Redemption 2 has always stuck with me, even all these years later. Geez, I don't even know how many years it's been since this game came out, but it's been a long time, and it is still at the forefront of my brain all the time. No matter what my back catalog looks like, no matter what video games I'm playing, Red Dead Redemption 2 is always in the back of my mind, ready to be booted up. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that a lot of the things that people complain about the game, the slowness, the rigidity, the weight, the way the game feels like it's constantly trying to resist you and fight you at every turn and corner, especially when I'm on my freaking horse. Oh my god, just go where I want you to go. But I think those are actually the reasons that made the game stick with me even more. Not because it was fun in a normal way. I remember being quite slow to get into the game. I stopped 30 minutes into the prologue the first time I played it because I was bored and I wanted to go play League of Legends. So thank God I ended that toxic relationship when it did. But Red Dead Redemption 2 actually asked something of me and challenged me. A video game challenged me and changed me and my perspective in ways that not many pieces of art can or probably will. So if you've got a mug or a bowl, or you're just settling in, let's talk about it. I've probably played through Red Dead Redemption 2 in its entirety from start to finish 3 or 4 times, and usually find myself getting lost in chapter 2 when Arthur's more capable and healthy and things are looking a little bit more optimistic for the gang. But as I continued to play through the game, I noticed something about the cold up here in Coulter. The snow isn't even really just weather up here. You can feel every ounce of push through the snow on the ground and the cold air piercing through every inch of clothing that you have, no matter how bundled up you are. And you can feel this emotional corral that the snow is pushing us through. It's almost like it's hurting us in the most natural way possible. And that cold very much so ignores your intention. It doesn't really care what you plan to make of yourself or what you plan to do. The first time we ever launch Red Dead Redemption 2, we immediately feel the hostility of the environment. We are terrified, we are on the run. There's a drastic sense of stillness surrounding us in the mountains, and it's not a peaceful type of stillness out here. It is a sense of survival. And I think one of the big things that Red Dead Redemption 2 gets right off the bat is pushing this sense of helplessness upon us as Arthur. But right away, Red Dead Redemption 2's world feels like it can shape our behavior before we even really understand the world that we're a part of and who we are as Arthur Morgan. We're fighting to survive up in these mountains immediately, and I think that a lot of the time survival often starts as compliance with the world around you, compliance with the inhabitants that surround you, and making the most of that, making the most of where we are. By the time chapter 1, the prologue, is done and we're making it out of Coulter, we are immediately taken into Horseshoe Overlook and the nearest town, Valentine. And in Valentine, we're kind of introduced to a new type of resistance. We're introduced to the mud and the gripping weight and the friction of this town. Every step we take, the mud clings to our boots or the hooves of our horse, and that progress that we felt leaving the mountain immediately feels slowed by the friction of this civilization, both metaphorically and quite literally. The entire time that we're making our way through Valentine, and we have to return quite a bit throughout the game, it's definitely one of my favorite places to visit and come back to, just because it feels almost homey. But anytime we're in Valentine, it almost feels as though we're having a conversation with the earth underneath us, you know? Like, there's an active discussion going back and forth with every step that we take, conversing and negotiating with the ground and the mud and the slipping and the gripping. Because of this, I think the game leads us towards more thoughtful and intentional movement. This weight and this conversation with the earth, with every step we take, makes us feel the intention behind our movement. Each time we want to do something, we want to take a step, we want to turn around to greet someone or antagonize them, or greet, antagonize, the classic, then we need to turn around and negotiate with the earth, and that's an intentional decision that we need to make. And I think my point is that this weight provides feedback to Arthur and us, the player, without punishing us innately. I may have construed it as some type of weird punishment in the prologue, but after I got over myself and sat down and thought about what I was supposed to be feeling and listening to the dialogue and feeling the heartbeat of the world, I found clarity in the system that was being presented to me. The weight that we're made to feel is what teaches us how to move through the world, ironically. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action, and what stands in the way becomes the way." And I think that's really poignant in the sense that we start off feeling this sense of fighting the current in this world that we're thrown into, and then we get to Valentine and we feel that twice over, and it ends up becoming the very thing that teaches us how to slow down and make intentional, thoughtful decisions in game. And that translated to real life for me. I guess what I'm trying to say is that friction isn't inherently a flaw, and that the world around us and under us can teach us that responsibility and that presence that we might need a little bit more of. Yeah. A lot of players seem to have a gripe with the ritual aspect of it all. How, in order to craft certain types of bullets and ammunition, you need to first set up camp, get down on one knee, pull out your bullets, and split them with your knife by hand, one at a time. Honestly, it's one of the most therapeutic parts of the game for me. That and cleaning your guns with the same old rag and gun oil every single time just to see them shine again. Taking care of our horse, a horse that starts off as just whatever horse we can muster at the time. Once you do find your horse, the game kind of nudges you in the direction of really tending for this horse. You will be feeding this horse, making sure that the horse is cleaned, groomed, brushed, making sure that your bond continues to grow with your horse. By the time we get to the end of the game, our bond with this horse has grown unequivocally. We spent the time tending to this horse, making sure that it was our horse. The camps throughout the game, Horseshoe Overlook, for example, always feel safe, absolutely. But overall, it's not even really a home. It feels like I'm going back to work, if that makes sense. Yes, they're family, but they're kind of just also like employees that we have to get along with every single day, if you know what I mean. Doing chores around the camp, whether it's lumber or heaving sacks of corn or flour from one end of camp to the other, nice and slowly. These rituals are what give the camp a little bit more of a sense of earned safety. But these rituals, in a sense, hold the world back at large. They hold back the chaos. These rituals aren't a way to fix the world by any means. They're our way of gaining any semblance of control back over the world. These really small actions that we make, whether it's cleaning our guns, grooming our horses, feeding ourselves, for God's sake, they all sort of become a sense of mental stability for us as a player and for Arthur as a character. For me, they almost became meditative by nature. I would outwardly seek these rituals in order to calm myself before I went and did anything, and I felt rewarded for the time that I spent in this ritualistic activity, and that definitely mirrors real life for me. I struggle to get anything done unless I have a clean space. I do the dishes, I do the laundry, I make sure that my 2 Aussie boys are taken care of, that my wife doesn't need anything, and just be helpful before I can even think about tackling the next hurdle for the day. We don't complete these rituals to fix the world. It's more something to hold on to while it changes anyway. And we just have to do what we have to do, and these rituals help us do that. So another big problem that people seem to have with Red Dead Redemption 2 is that we don't have quite as much choice as they thought we might. A lot of the consensus seems to be that the guide rails that Rockstar put in place during a lot of the game feels a lot more restrictive and inhibiting than anything else, and I can totally empathize with that point. There's been a lot of times throughout the game where I wanted to go make a certain decision during a story mission, and I wasn't allowed to. I went to go in a certain direction, and it didn't want me to. It told me, hey, turn around, follow Dutch, where are you going? Or I wanted to kill someone that maybe the game didn't want me to kill, and same thing. But I think that a lot of the game's choices tend to mirror reality in the sense that we do have choice throughout the game. We have an extensive amount of choice. We have so much choice that it's kind of mind-boggling to think about. But when it comes to making choices that are bigger than us, we are kind of trapped in this smaller scope or within this shape. We make choices every single day that are extremely important choices, and we make those choices within the context of whatever room we're standing in. And I think that that plays hand in hand with the choices that we make in Red Dead Redemption 2. A lot of our choices are not that big in the grand scheme of things. They're really personal choices that we have to make and stand on. Our choices matter personally more than they ever matter structurally throughout the story of the game. They matter to who we are as a character and who we are as Arthur Morgan. And the world never forces us to make a certain decision one way or the other, but it definitely frames certain decisions as the more correct choices, to say the least. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that those choices don't exactly have as big of a grand impact as we might want them to, but those personal choices matter a lot at the end of the day, and they change how we end up perceiving ourselves and how the world perceives us on a day-to-day basis, and what legacy we can leave behind when we do go. We still have agency in Red Dead Redemption 2, just like we still have personal agency in real life. It's just smaller and more personal agency, and I think that's pretty poignant. In the game, by the time you get to Saint Denis, it feels busy in a way that just does not include you. There's movement everywhere. There's NPCs in the way no matter where I'm trying to run, and none of it is waiting for you. There are strangers hollering at the top of their lungs. Someone's trying to find Gavin constantly. It's as though everything here is without a doubt already in motion when we arrive. You don't just step into the city. You ride into something that is already going on. Unlike the mountains up in Coulter or even the Heartlands in the woods, the city does not absorb the bodies that are brought to it. It redirects them in every which way, making people respond in ways that they might not anywhere else. A sense of infrastructure and cobbled roads are going to replace all form of previous negotiation that we had with the Earth. Any of that conversation is now a one-sided monologue. All of your movement and actions are going to become a lot more reactive and not so much chosen. Like I said, you're reacting to things around you, to kids stealing your bag, to people running around, hollering, trolleys driving through. The streets are here to decide where you go. They're designed to funnel people. All of the movement here almost feels prescribed in a way that you're told how to move, how to behave, and if you so much as run a little bit too quick, you're gonna hear about it, either from the locals or from the authorities. And it's not that I think the city's hostile, it just doesn't care. It's so indifferent to Arthur and his life that it's almost like you're unnecessary. You're not invisible, the world responds to you in a way that it should, but you're completely unnecessary and unneeded here. Saint Denis reminds us that progress really doesn't slow down to see who it's leaving behind. The cogs will keep turning, even after you're no longer needed. This sense of progress isn't cruel, per se. It's just indifferent. And you really only notice when it stops needing you. By the time we make it to the end of the game, and Arthur's time has unfortunately come to an end, we are then responsible for stepping into the shoes of John Marston in the epilogue. At Beecher's Hope is where we start to feel that grounded, heavy, and meaningful fatigue that has built up throughout the entire course of the game. As we're building this home and building a future, we are finally rewarded with a sense of building as opposed to a sense of breaking foundations that were already cracking under pressure. John's optimism is quite contagious at that point. We really want to build something. We want to build a future. That manual labor is seen as cooperation for the first time in the game, like a real sense of cooperation. And as much as people rag on Uncle, he is a really essential glue that holds a lot of those members together, including John's family here at Beecher's Hope. Finally, as John, we get to build something meaningful that stays. All of this effort from Arthur and from John has accumulated instead of erasing itself like the footprints in Coulter or the hoofprints in Valentine or the sound of our footsteps in Saint Denis. It's made me realize that legacy isn't glory or conquering anything. It's a drag path that leaves its evidence of its own weight, and the ground will always remember that weight. Legacy isn't just about being remembered, it's about leaving something behind to carry that weight after we're gone. This sense of weight doesn't really feel heroic in any way, it feels honest. Every board that we place feels like it actually matters, and for the first time we're doing work that doesn't push back. It just lets us forge our path. By the time we get to the end of the game, standing still doesn't feel dangerous. No urgency, no system asking us to respond. And what's interesting is that that stillness is the climax, that cathartic build into a full release. It feels like a final exhale, like the first full breath we've taken in the entire game, and for Arthur, possibly in his entire life. We're finally at a point where we can let the world continue without us really intervening in any way. Throughout our whole lives in the game, we feel this sense of pressure to find meaning by providing for other people around us, and finally, by the end of the game, we have a full meaningful ending without a resolution or triumph, and there doesn't need to be. Just one final exhale. I don't necessarily feel like I need to leave a mark because everything that I've done in my power will do that for me. There's nothing left that I can do. There's a lot that I could have done, but I did what I did, and I'm okay with that. I guess what I'm trying to say is Meaning doesn't necessarily come from this constant, fruitless labor. I think it arrives more when we stop trying to prove ourselves to anyone, to prove that we belong. And at this point in the game, I don't feel like I need to keep going, and I'm not necessarily trying to arrive anywhere anymore. It doesn't feel lonely or empty. It feels allowed or earned. And if you can accept this quiet, stillness starts to feel a lot more like grace through this different lens. Now, before I go, I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know this was a long one. It takes a lot of time to sit with something like this personally and as a viewer, and I appreciate you giving me the time and space to do that together. I've got a lot more like this on the way. I have so many ideas. I'm just a big fan of art in general. I have been a dancer for 23 years now-ish, wow, and just am an avid consumer of art, big cinephile, love videography and editing and anything that has to do with the creative process. So if you guys are down for the ride, thanks for being here. I'm gonna keep chugging, but for now, just take it easy, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.